Hello, everyone. January 15th. Today we're talking Amazon, how it's buying copper, Tesla, how it's building bots. And at the end of today's episode, I have an amazing WTF moment. So stick around for that. Buckle up. The future is now. We're talking about AI, how artificial intelligence is becoming the dominant theme right now in the investment community. We're talking about chips. We just got an amazing report from TSM and ASML moved in kind. We're talking about bots like Optimus 3 and the future that we have with that. And of course, we got to get a little bit in here on Bitcoin as well too. We're talking about record revenues. ETFs inflows are exploding. Robots are coming and autonomous driving. But the weird one today has to do with Amazon buying 14 tons of copper and entering into an agreement with Rio Tinto to get that copper supplied for them. They must think something's coming. They must think there's a supply shortage around the corner. Let's get into it. Chip kings are ruling. So TSM last night out of Taiwan just announced an amazing earnings report. They beat on the top line, they beat on the bottom line, and they indicated with their forward guidance that they believe that 2026 is going to be 30% better this year than it was last year. Now, if you're not sure what Taiwan Semiconductor does, they basically fabricate the chips for NVIDIA, Apple, Qualcomm. Everyone has to go through the bridge of Taiwan Semiconductor, except for some smaller names such as Intel, like that little jab there. This picture here that you see on the screen, this is what you see at a Taiwan Semiconductor plant. And what they're doing here is they're fabricating chips. So you just go in front of one of these machines and it fabricates a chip using EUV lithography technology. Now, who makes lithography equipment? ASML. They are the only company in the world that is capable of making the machinery that is required in order to make these chips. It's a fantastic monopoly to have. They're worth 500 billion, and I think it'll be a long time until they're worth at least $1 trillion. So keep your eye on TSM and ASML. Fantastic money makers. NVIDIA and Broadcom are just crushing it. These are your AI investing cheat codes. You want to pair these companies with those two that we just talked about, NVIDIA, Broadcom. That's a great basket to have. I myself have invested in all of them except for Broadcom. I'm waiting for a pullback on that stock. Then I'll be able to buy some, load up and put some in the bag. NVIDIA has an amazing 57 billion in revenue each quarter. So in a year, they're bringing in somewhere north of $200 billion in revenue. And Qualcomm has a market cap right now of 1.6 trillion. A lot of analysts are coming out saying that they will pass 2 trillion market cap here very soon. Tesla's Optimus stock. So this is an incredible story. Jason Calacanis had a personal tour of the Optimus facility where they are making them, and he was able to spend some time with them. He was with Elon Musk for a day, so to speak, and he said that in the future, you're eventually going to forget that Tesla was an EV company, that you will always think of Tesla as an autonomous and a robotics company going forward. The long-term plan on this is absolutely astounding. They believe that for every person on Earth, there will be a robot on Earth. That's incredible. And that's a good labor source as well, too. We can do almost anything, manufacturing and whatnot. The time that he spent with the Optimus robot, he said it was absolutely incredible and it was a mind-blowing experience. So what's the Optimus robot going to be doing? Well, there's 5 major use cases. Number one is obviously being manufacturing and assembly, doing repetitive tasks, things you don't want to be doing. They can also help around the house, doing household chores, things you don't want to be doing around the house. They can also be a social host, so you can have a party and they can be telling jokes or interacting with people, bringing drinks, being a waiter, so to speak. Therefore, they can serve in jobs that are just like hospitality and hosting. So they could be the waiter in your favorite restaurant. One of the things I think is pretty cool is they can assist with the elderly. There's a really positive use case with that, of course, that they would enable the elderly to stay longer within their own home. Won't feel that they're alone, but they will feel that they have a bit of power and autonomy within themselves to stay living longer within their own home. If you've ever seen somebody in the elderly community living in an elderly home, sometimes it can be positive, but sometimes it's just not. And they would prefer to be home, going around the house and spending time in their garden and spending time doing things that they would love to do. Having an Optimus robot in your home would allow you to take care of the things that you just can't do anymore. And so you give them a command and they take care of it. And then they're always there. If anything does happen, they can call emergency services and they can give you first aid, except for mouth to mouth resuscitation. They wouldn't be able to do that. But I think this is awesome. This is a really good use case. But what I'm really kind of funny joking about is I can't wait to see those TikTok videos of old grandpas, old grandmas yelling at the robot and getting all frustrated with the robot because it's not doing exactly what I want it to do. So, anyways, it's going to be fun. And I think the Optimus robot, there's such a bright future in front, and Tesla is definitely going to be winning in that regard. And they're going to have the total addressable market open to them. I think if you don't have shares in Tesla, I think you really got to think twice about that. All right. Robotaxi, this is a cool one. So they used to be only testing their vehicles in San Francisco and in Austin and some little suburbs around the Austin area, but now they have expanded that test network to 9 cities. I have heard of some reports as well of them getting up to 13 cities. I did a little bit of research on that, and all I could find was that they are cities right now and they have strong plans to move to 9 cities very, very soon. What's interesting is they are moving up to the Buffalo, New York area and also Chicago, Illinois. I think one of the great things they need to test out is winter driving. What's it like? What does it do to the range? How difficult is it to drive around with snow with FSD? I live in Canada, and so I know what it's like to drive a Tesla in the winter, and I know what it's like to drive a Tesla with FSD in the winter. It does a really good job, but it is not as perfect as when you're driving. But so far so good. Like overall, it's very, very good, but not as good as summer driving. So I'm curious to see what they get out with their testing when they go out and do robotaxi testing in Chicago and in Buffalo, New York. Then you can kind of see those Sunbelt states down there with Las Vegas, Phoenix, San Francisco, and a bunch of testing in the Texas area there. I wish them well. I hope it goes really well, and I hope the robotaxi rollout exceeds expectations. And I think it's going to be very disruptive and a positive for humankind, where we can have taxis driving people around, people who don't have cars. The likelihood that they actually need a car goes way down. So they can do long haul logistics and cover the states and deliver the goods and products that we need. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for everyone here. Okay, move on. Amazon's copper heist. So this is the crazy thing today that came out. This isn't the WTF moment, but curious that Amazon would buy so much copper, 14 tons of it. What's their thirst on this? Why do they want it? They must be thinking that AI is going to be consuming a lot or using a lot of electricity. Copper is one of the main conductors that we like to use for electrical currents. And so they must be thinking they need to have this for data center rollouts, or perhaps there's another use case that Amazon's getting into with this. It just kind of points at a lot of these at the nation states and large corporations. There's particular minerals or materials that they're wanting to get their hands on. They identify it as a potential shortage and then they jump into it. There could be an opportunity here for copper to become just like silver did this last year. If you're interested in looking, it's very easy to find some copper ETFs. There's no GLD for copper. There is one for futures, so you can buy the futures contract through an ETF. And there's obviously copper miners as well that you can buy, but there hasn't really been demand to store copper and wrap it into an ETF for its size. And it doesn't have a lot of monetary value at this time. So to store the amount of copper that you would need for an ETF, it's just economically not a real good use case unless the copper price can skyrocket. And then it's a little more likely to be held in storage and in custody so that you can wrap an ETF around it. But I thought that was very interesting. Amazon, while Tesla is building robots and going forward with this AI, Amazon is very progressive and very tech oriented, stacking copper and building bots. Okay, Bitcoin. Here we go. This is an amazing stat. So yesterday, the IBIT ETF had $750 million flow into that ETF. If you stand back and look at the last 3 days, the last 3 days of inflows have been $1.7 billion going into that one ETF. That is a large inflow of cash going in. What's going on? What are these guys saying? Why is everyone rushing into Bitcoin? I myself am a bit of a Bitcoin maxi. I buy a little bit of Bitcoin every single day. So I'm part of that crew that stacks sats. I think there's a long term positive return on Bitcoin, and it's a great way to hold on to some time value and some energy and skill from your life. And it's not going to get diluted by any other force. No government can dilute it. And I really love that I can store it and no one's going to take this from me. And one wild thing too is a few analysts are coming up with some wild targets on Bitcoin saying it's going to go to $225,000 this year. Pretty pumped for that. So I'm trying to stack as much as I can before that happens. But you know how all these analysts and predictions go. I think they're like 0 for 17 on Bitcoin. Has anybody ever predicted the price of Bitcoin correctly 1 year out? It always seems to be wrong. Let's see how it goes. And right now, the Bitcoin market cap is $3.3 trillion. So great jump there over the last month. Let's go to the Bitcoin chart. We had that downward trend from the high on October 6th down through the low of December. We got a good support there. We had a strong low get put in at that bottom there once we hit it in December. And we've been trending nicely along that. Good support coming in. Sailor's weekly buys are helping us out. Then we had a nice big buy signal once coin crossed the 50 simple moving average. That's that yellow line. And as you can see, as it's starting to curl up here, the 50-day moving average is starting to go up. We still got a long time to go before we can cross that 200-day moving average. And then we can get a nice golden cross, hopefully later this year, when the 50-day and the 200-day cross. So it's looking real nice. We had a nice run up there on Monday and Tuesday on the price of Bitcoin, and it's kind of fallen back a little bit. When we saw this pattern of that nice strong surge on Monday and Tuesday, we did sell covered calls on Bitcoin. We use IBIT as the proxy in order to sell those covered calls. We sold the 54 covered call. It looked like it was going to go into the money and we'd have to do a roll or handle assignment of some type. However, it has pulled back nicely, and I think it's sitting around that 54. I think it was a little bit below 54, but kind of sitting around there on today's trade. Today being Thursday, then tomorrow being Friday is the expiry date. So we'll be watching that pretty closely. The CFU trade. So speaking of the Bitcoin trade that we did earlier in the week, this is what we did today. If you're a CFU member, thank you for being with us. Thank you for being an active subscriber. We do have active trade alerts that get posted in our Discord channel, and our members are able to pick those up, enter in the orders, and follow along with us if they decide to follow along with us. So what we did today is we did open up a new leap on Novo Nordisk again. So we're in another nice bullish position on that. Hopefully that will go really well. The fills that we're getting in today across the membership were between 1050 and 1110, which is really, really nice. CrowdStrike, we'll get into that chart here right after this. I'm going to show you exactly why we entered into this bearish trade on CrowdStrike. They had a very nice setup, and so we went really aggressive on the bearish trade on that with our call credit spread. We rolled Salesforce. The fill price that we were getting in there was around 71 to 90 cents per contract. The fill that we got on that was between 71 and 90 cents. And you can see some of the brokerages that our memberships are using. So we do Tasty Trades, Robinhood, and Fidelity. We also use Schwab and some others because it's so often used as like examples in like blog posts and samples and any kind of academic or the literature. They'll say, suppose your ticker's XYZ or ABC or 123. So it's a little weird that you would go with XYZ. I guess maybe you get a little advertising that's in the samples and textbooks and in literature on Wikipedia and Investopedia. So let's get into it. So let's just get into it. With Block, we did a neutral roll on that. So we went into an Iron Condor. We got some fills at 125 to 135. This one, for some odd reason, is really being sticky and stubborn, but we got till tomorrow to get that done. Hopefully we'll be able to get that filled at 130, and I would love it if we could get 135 or above. Close. We weren't able to close any trades today or close them out for profit, so hopefully we'll be able to do some of that tomorrow for the week. Our M sub metric for today was 0, so we didn't cover your membership cost today. Hopefully we'll be able to do that for you tomorrow. All right, let's get into the chart of the day. This was an easy read. So we'll just start at the top and work our way down with the call outs on this chart here. Clear downward trend. You can kind of see that when it came in from the 550 mark. I forget about when that was, but call it 2 months ago. This is the daily chart. So every candle that you see here is a daily strong downtrend. And so we're looking at this, and it even was at the trend line today. It broke through the 200-day moving average. That is a strong bearish signal. You'd never want your stock to go below the 200-day moving average. It's going to happen, of course, but the longer it can stay above that, the better. It means that people are tending to buy your stock and pay more and more for it because they always see continuous value in it. And it also means that over the last year, because roughly a 200-day trading average is going to encompass a full year, roughly, so to speak, it means that half the people paid less than you over the last year, and that half the people are paying more for it. So it's a continual bull cycle doing really well. When you start to break below it, that means that people are willing to sell it for less than what they likely bought for. So there's got to be a reason why people are like, I want out of this. There's a greener pasture over here. Maybe they're buying Bitcoin. Maybe they're buying ASML. Maybe they're buying TSM. There's a faster horse somewhere else, and it's not with CrowdStrike. That's what I'm betting on. You broke your 200-day moving average. That is not a good sign. After that, number 3 here on the call outs is you're starting to make an equal low with a previous low. This is the first step before you break below this, and then it becomes a strong signal that you have further momentum going down below. If it breaks that Jan 2 equal low, there's a lot of room below it, and we can already see that there is a lot of room. This goes back to August of last year when it put in that strong low. So basically what I'm saying here is you broke your 200, you're doing an equal low, and you got room below you. There's a lot of open air right there. And so we entered into a call credit spread on this. So we're hedged and we're able to get a real nice juicy credit on this. So really glad that we were able to get on this trade. Our WTF moment of the day. My friend just found his Bitcoin wallet. He started it in 2013 and he put $10 in and bought some Bitcoin. Well, that Bitcoin is now worth $4,991.55. Crazy, right? If it can turn $10 into $5,000 in 12 years, works out to be a 49,200% return. The takeaway story from this is look at what Bitcoin can do for your portfolio. It belongs in your portfolio. Maybe it doesn't need to have 100% allocation. Maybe it doesn't need to be 40% like I have allocated, but it does belong in your portfolio. Even just 1%, it can make a difference. And that concludes our episode for today. If you're curious to learn more about Cashflow University or CFU, head on over to joincfu.com. We're a full-service trading community for options and stocks. We have a Discord where we share all of our trades and our alerts. We have a website for tracking, a blog for information, and a newsletter for information and to keep you up to speed. Check out our services if you're curious, and we'd love to see you join our membership, and we'll see you inside our Discord. Until tomorrow, talk to you later.